Coworker is an intelligent customer success partner.
Welcome to AI and the Future of Revenue Retention podcast, where we explore how AI is transforming customer success and revenue growth. I'm Susil, founder of Coworker. We work with revenue and customer success leaders to improve revenue retention using AI. Let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Kyle Clark, a customer success leader with expertise in enterprise implementations, cross-functional initiatives, and team development, helping organizations build trust, relationship, drive adoption, and create gold standard customer experience. Hi, Kyle. Welcome to our podcast. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I think we kind of start with a little bit your introduction so that our viewers will know whom they are listening to.
Sure. So my name's Kyle Clark. I'm a senior CS ops manager at Miro. Prior to that, I've held a couple of different roles in go-to-market, but almost all of it was customer facing, either in sales or implementation leadership. I spent the balance of my career in SaaS. I started working at a very young age, but none of it was really computer related except for a little bit of IT work I did here and there. And I've always had a really deep passion and appreciation for customer experience, delivering a consistent customer journey that delivers on like core KPIs and also respects like what are the needs of the customer, what are the needs of the business, and what are the needs of my team. So yeah, I think that's the 20,000 foot view. Oh, also I guess like on a personal level, I live in Brooklyn, and with my fiance and our two cats, and I love cars. It literally was my first word. So anytime you want to have your ear talked off for several hours, feel free to talk to me about that.
Awesome.
We're going to have to talk about how you do cars in Brooklyn and figure that out for
That's how you know I'm committed.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Go ahead, Cliff.
no, that's great. So, when you start thinking about customer success and signals that are coming to the teams and how operations can help provide different signals, how do you align or differentiate between noise and which signals should be prioritized from your perspective? Are you involved in providing those types of signals out to the teams?
It's a good question. I mean, the first thing I'll say is usually the leaders you work with and support have a good intuition for like what really correlates to, to signal. I think at this point, most CS leaders are pretty accustomed to having a breadth and a wealth of data available to them, particularly, if they're working at a company where there's an analytics team that can just provide mountains of data and analysis for you. And so they're kind of used to looking at a lot of different numbers and saying these are the things that matter, being able to sort of connect, here's what I'm hearing from my customers, so here's what matters in relation to what you're telling me. So I think the answer really is like, there tends to be a pretty select set of things that the customers report are like, this is where value is, and this is what's getting in the way of it. And those tend to be, they're product specific, but leaders basically tend to know where the signal is in terms of like what's meaningful data versus just noise.
What are the types of metrics you and your team follow and try to achieve to be successful? How do you define success for the CS side of the world from the operations side?
Yeah, I mean, that would, I think it's at the most like reductive level, it's achieving our KPIs. So GRR is a big one. Expansion revenue is one that we're paying more attention to this year. But I would say like if the customer is getting value, communicates that they have value, they can serve as an advocate, they continue to expand, their usage is strong, all of those things are success. I think like in a general level, like that's kind of what's always sort of been the cornerstone of success. I think it can be product specific too, but generally speaking, uh, deep adoption, not just, if they have licenses turned on and, people are using it, but like, are they using it to a point where it's when I was at Catalyst, we had the idea that like if you ripped out Salesforce, people would lose their minds, right? Like it's unfathomable that you could run your business without that. That's the level of value that you want to be able to deliver. So success is when you're at a point where if I rip this out of the hands of my users, they would lose their minds and it would be like a five-alarm fire. So that can be looked at in a multitude of different ways, like multi-active users, DAU over MAU. But a lot of that I think will come from the CS team or whoever it is that's directly interfacing with the customer having clear alignment with the people who hold the keys to the budget, saying this is where the value is, and being able to illustrate how it's worth the budget that they're paying for it.
Mhm. Just quick follow-up on that. I'm sure your CS team would kind of look at maybe operations to provide them some kind of signal like, hey, who is uh, have a high potential for churn, or where is probably opportunity for expansion, right? Do you maintain any kind of those kind of information or signals that you can provide to your CS teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of it is product usage based, but a
Mhm.
lot of it, but there's also, there's also a fair component of relationships as well. I think like the confluence between having the relationships with the right people at the right levels, and part of that is so, you can't establish like meaningful value if you're not talking to the people who really understand it at that level. If you're looking at, someone who's just a tool admin, they don't have the same concept of value for the product that the end users and the leaders of those end users who wanted the product in the first place have. So there's the relationship part of it, which is, who are the contexts that we're engaged with? What's the depth of engagement with them? Are we multi-threading with them? And
Mhm.
are we consistently engaging with them and seeing that they want more from us? Like, do they want more conversations around the products, the new products
Mhm.
that we're releasing? Are they trying to find ways to inject Miro into other parts of the business? This is not specific to Miro. I think this is pretty much
Yeah. Yeah.
any tool. So that's one side of it. I think is a little more driven by relationships, and the other is leading indicators like how is their usage trending over time. I mean, a very clear one is like, is their usage continuously dropping over time in like a reliable way? Most customers have like usage fluctuations over time. And, we're lucky enough to have a very good analytics team that's good at, you know, sort of right sizing movement patterns so that when things start to chop, we're not like seeing signals and reacting to them too quickly. Like looking at a single metric like MAU may not tell you the full story because, if they're a seasonal business where like, at the end of a quarter, everyone gets involved and then they drop off. But that's enough value that they don't need to be in there every single month. Just looking at MAU could cause a bit of could cause you to sort of thrash a bit when you don't need to. So on
Mhm.
the usage side, like license activation is a really baseline one. If they've made it to day 90 and they're not at least 80 to 90% activated, you have a problem, right? They haven't fully onboarded. So that's a really clear and easy one. And if we're looking at like consistent usage patterns over time, is well over half of the licenses that they paid are they deployed on a monthly basis and being used on a monthly basis. Those are all important signals that we can serve up to them. But I would say like, and on top of those, we have a usage health score that the analytics team built, which is very robust and is built on many, many, many metrics, including the ones that I mentioned. And I think how that number is trending is also a helpful signal to serve up. In addition to, they've also built sort of trending customer right sized, seasonality adjusted, trending versions of that exact same composite score to say, hey, this very complicated score that we've built is now trending downwards in a way that's discrepant with their normal usage patterns and those in their cohort. That's a very, very, very strong signal. So like in terms of its descriptiveness rather. So we have those built as well into like CTAs and things like that for the scale team.
Okay. Just one you mentioned about the engagement, depth and engagement. Are those part of the score or that's still kind of manual right now?
That part is something I think we're building towards, is being
Okay.
able to
Right.
include engagements with customers in kind of the broader concept of a health score. That's more something that the CSMs and the CS leaders are paying attention to and driving on their own.
Mm.
I would say like the usage part of it is being served to them by operations and analytics, and the relationships part is being actively managed by them. We, of course, develop all the reporting and make sure that we have the contact data to be able to show how these things are, rolling up over a very large customer base. But ultimately, the people who are ensuring that the meetings are happening, that they're quality, and that the context that we're engaging are the right people at the end of the day, the field's really, really driving that. We're just providing visibility into where they are and where the gaps are.
When you think about those signals, which signals do you think I'm fascinated by the robustness of your analytics team and what they're providing, right? I have to believe that this is a time-sensitive activity that takes time to build up those repeated patterns, but can be based on specific archetypes, so to speak, of customers, right? That fit into a certain profile, and then it's adjusted based on their actual usage and consumption and other things along those lines. But with that being said, which signals are the most important in your mind? Or is usage really that? Is that trending the most important, or are there other areas where you're finding can target either risk or expansion opportunities sooner?
I think you have to look at all of it. I think usage is a very helpful, even the most comprehensive set of usage metrics isn't telling the full story. You can still get surprise churn in a healthy using customer because there's macro influences to think about. There may be like, good usage patterns, but the usage, like how they're using it is easily replaced by a competitor, or it's just not valuable enough that a CFO wouldn't redline it. So I think you do have to look at more. I mean, it's great to have a very robust usage score. I think it's very important, but I think that's one part of it. That's sort of like here's what your customer knows how to do, and they're doing it well. But your job in customer success is to help expand their mind, to understand where their strategic priorities are, and find ways to get a foothold with your product and what it solves into those strategic priorities. And so I think you do need you do need the relationship area. You need to understand who the buyers are, like what the critical use cases are for your product that delivers tons of value, and constantly be finding ways to paint that picture for them, make sure that they see how it aligns to what they want to achieve, and then help them see the path to get there. And I think usage alone just won't get you there.
And then from a human touch perspective, there's obviously constraints on time, accounts, and the ability to consume all of that data. It kind of goes back to the initial beginning question, which is how do you filter out some of that noise and prioritize some of that information?
I mean, a lot of people are looking at renewal dates, right? Like, when is the contract up? I think another thing people are looking for too is like, is this a business that we think has the right composition to have a lot of breadth of usage of Miro. Miro has like a lot of different like offerings, and we're expanding our product set quite a bit. And so the question becomes like not just like can they use Miro? The truth is any business can use some of Miro. Anyone, anywhere can use it. I use it personally all the time in non-business contexts. I run a lot of my life out of Miro actually. But things like our AI workflows and like more sophisticated integrations with Jira and stuff like that, there are specific kinds of businesses where those are solutions that deliver a ton of value, and there are other businesses where that's not as relevant. So I think part of it is understanding like what's the makeup of my book, what are the existing relationships that we have in the past, what do the usage trends say, and what about Miro, what about the direction that Miro is taking fits well with their narrative.
So obviously a very complex environment.
Yeah.
How do you how do you segment those types of customers? Do you know going in? Is it more of a discovery process to understand the complexity or their ability to adopt the high value pieces of Miro? Or how do you approach that? Maybe I'm asking the wrong person for that, and I apologize. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but it's fascinating to me to say to segment your product set across even the level of complexity or personal use or other things along those lines. I imagine you want your customers to be as engaged with the technology as you are.
Yeah, definitely. Just to make sure I'm clear on the question, is it like how do we decide like what customers go to which CSMs? Like are we talking about
Yeah,
like a segmentation
do
and
you
coverage model?
segment? Do you
Yeah.
stratify your customers in any way, whether it's strategic or complexity level, or how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, the our approach is pretty is pretty standard in the industry. We segment the business based on spend and based on essentially company size and location. So we have customers all over the globe, and we have still a pretty substantial PLG side of Miro. I don't work with that side. I work only with the SLG, like the enterprise plan customers, and those follow a pretty standard sales-led motion where like you work at the very beginning of the fiscal year with the finance team and the sales team to define different territory segments, and those territories are carved. We get an understanding of how many CSMs we have and how many customers we have across all those geos and segments, and then we carve them up that way. Generally speaking, the more a customer spends and the more propensity or the more capacity they have to spend, as generally measured by the number of employees they have, the more focused the coverage model. They're more likely to get a CSM if they're a larger business because they're more likely to spend enough money to get a CSM if they're a larger business.
Right, to cover the costs and the margins associated with those services being delivered.
Yeah.
So, so if you had a magic wand, what type of data or signals or engagement with your clients would you have that you don't have today?
I think this is the one thing that we're very fortunate that AI is in a great position to provide. I think the thing that I think CSMs are doing right now to cut and filter through the noise. I'm realizing now I'm answering a prior question, but we'll get there. Um, they're using AI to synthesize not just the account data, not just the usage data, not just the spend, not just the renewal date, not just the products that they've purchased, but the calls, like the nature of the calls, the sentiment of the calls, the title and the people and the lines of business. That's that other X factor that I think really brings it all home. I think that's what I was saying before. Like the usage is one thing; it's extremely important. You do need a picture on like, are they healthy? Are they actually getting value out of the product as seen by how they're using it? But that doesn't tell you the future. I think like knowing who you're engaged with, what's important to them, the lines of business they work in, how you solve problems for those lines of business, and then how you move outward from there. That's the piece that I think other people, I think that's the piece that I think that's fundamentally hard to connect with the usage, but that's where AI comes in. It's because it's extremely good at looking at large sets of data. So you can get all of your Gong call data analyzed alongside all of the other hard metrics to combine together to say this is a good picture. Their usage is healthy. We have the right relationships with the right people. The conversations are of the right quality. This is a good situation. On the other hand, the usage is great, but we're only locked into a very small niche line of the business, and there's no way out right now. We're not executive. We don't have any engagement with executives. So I think that's if we could wave the magic wand, which AI is turning out to be, would be connecting the qualitative part of the work of a CSM with the quantitative part that ops and analytics can deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's an interesting balance today of leveraging AI tools and not creating more noise than is necessary. And then looking at the ability to create the appropriate types of signals in a prioritized manner. So
Yeah.
I, personally leveraging AI technologies and the different types of conversations and strategies that we have with clients, um, helping to actually uh, train the technology, filter through those key signals, and being able to leverage them at the right time appropriately is really hard to do, right? And I think we're all adapting and learning. How successful have you guys been of leveraging those AI technologies, or is it across the calls that you're talking about from a Gong level perspective, or even interpreting those sentiment signals?
I think Miro's done actually a really good job of adopting AI both internally. Like I think we're riding the wave pretty effectively. The company's been very supportive of experimentations, put a lot of tools in our hands to experiment across the business with AI, and also has like sponsored internally some specific projects and
Hmm.
specific use cases for AI. And they've also embedded it in the product, I think, in a really effective way. So I think Miro does a pretty dang good job of it. But I think where we are is where a lot of businesses are. If they're on the AI journey, or if they're not just at the very beginning, which is like how do we use it? Once you move past the how do we use it, kind of people largely fall into like this, let's experiment with everything phase. And so there's an explosion of effort, an explosion of output revolving around AI, what it can do. And it's amazing to see the stuff that fellow CSMs and SDRs are putting together using Claude and Cowork and all the different tools that we have available to us. I think that's a really fun place to be, but at a certain point, like source of truth and governance do need to come back into the
Yeah.
picture, especially in a large enterprise. Like you're going to get a lot of signal and a lot of noise and a lot of
Noise. Yeah.
thrash and a lot of people duplicating effort and working cross purposes. And I think that's natural. But I think like the next stage after that is consolidating around some kind of core approaches. Like this way of using AI solves this business problem better than any other way. This is the canonical way of doing it. I think like we're sort of we're sort of forming, and I think when we move to the norming stage,
Yep.
then the noise sort of reduces. How we get there, that transition to going there, who makes those calls. I actually don't know if anyone has a good answer for that yet. I don't. I'd actually, I can't say that I do. I just know that like I can intuit that that's where the journey needs to go.
Mhm.
And so to kind of end on an interesting note, which you might not be comfortable enough to answer. How does all of that come together, right? All of these signals, all the noise, all the new technologies, all the experimentation. How is that going to help you hit your goals? Or are you finding other ways to achieve results, pulling data from different sources? What's your perspective on 2026? I want to end it on a positive note, but it's hard. Everything is changing every few weeks, it feels like these days.
Yeah, I mean, so 2026 has already been and going to be an interesting year. 2027 even more so. I think this is one of the few years where I can honestly say, looking ahead 6 to 12 months from now, I'm really not super confident. It's very hard for me to call any shots. There are a few things that I'd place some bets on. The first is that AI is going to continue to grow substantially. I think there's going to be, just like we've seen in tech in the past, there's going to be a lot of early winners, then there's going to be a lot of losers, and there's going to be a consolidation and an acquisition phase. What that looks like in the world of AI is very hard for me to speak to. I wish I was a little smarter, but the truth is I just don't know how it's going to go. But I think to end on a positive note, and this is because I'm an eternal optimist. I think in general, the one thing that will kind of bring us home is that everybody generally wants to work together. We want to solve problems together. We want to improve things together. Like we're all sort of, I think, especially right now in like the world that we live in, we are looking for a win. We're looking for a way to work together and make it happen positively. And so I do think like, however uncertain the future is going to be with AI, people are still going to find a way to align on a common goal, particularly at work. Find a way to solve the problem together, work across boundaries, use AI tools to their advantage, and be as effective as possible. I think, right, there's a lot that goes with that. There's a lot of assumptions baked in there, but that's kind of my take.
Yeah.
Yeah, very hard to predict the future with any of these
Absolutely.
technologies
And
or
plus,
what's on the cusp, right?
yeah, yeah. And there's nobody, no one that smart person that has come and really predicted well as well. So everybody is kind of like that, right? So we are all in same boat. So
Yeah.
anyway, Kyle, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I think you provided a lot of good insights that people would love to listen to. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I hope my rambles were helpful, and it's been a pleasure meeting you.
All right, thank you.
Feel free to contact us if you want to learn more about how AI can help customer success.